South Africa, basically, this is a chart that gives you pretty much the 130 odd sovereign ratings we have. South Africa now sits not in investment grade anymore. It's in the double B category, and you have quite a few interesting ratings there. As you go down further in the double B category, you would have the African ratings of the likes of Angola, Nigeria, Kenya, and so on. Now, that shouldn't be a benchmark, and that's not what I want to imply. That must not be a benchmark for South Africa. South Africa going forward with this new administration, it must look the other way again and see where the benchmarks are, where do we want to get, and certainly not any further down. I was just mentioning earlier, one important comparison for me is always Brazil, and actually Brazil, and I'll come back to that later on, we downgraded Brazil now in January to double B minus, all with a stable outlook as well. So a notch now below where South Africa is. And South Africa and the new administration has to find those crossroads that will lead either up or the Brazilian way. And that's where the litmus test is out there. To find the strength, to find the policies, to find the commitment, to find the political support, to implement reforms that will lead us to higher ratings again. If not, and again, like I said earlier, I come back to Brazil, if you don't find these policies, if you don't find the political support, your rating just continues to weaken. Quickly, just from a global perspective, because we are now in a more interesting part of the credit cycle again, the majority of our sovereign ratings has a stable outlook. When you look at the distribution of upgrades versus downgrades, downgrades in red, upgrades in green, we went through a tough credit cycle, no doubt, all around the world. However, we have seen a bit of a pickup throughout the year, not visible yet in the upgrade versus downgrade pictures, but the situation is stabilizing now. We have seen upgrades a lot, actually quite a few, in Europe over the last year. Some of the European Union countries that were badly hit from a credit perspective during the European sovereign debt cycle, they are on the up again. Even the likes of Greece, Cyprus that were hard hit, Portugal, Spain, Ireland. So we have seen quite a few actually interesting rating movements up on that front again, which also tells you something about the strength of the European economy, which is important for South Africa as well. Now back to South Africa. Why are we where we are today? And what has happened? When you look at this, we basically, in our analysis, we look at 6 kind of broader segments of analysis. Institutional, economic, external, 2 fiscal assessments, and then the monetary assessment. And the downgrade cycle for South Africa began in 2012. And there, what changed first, we had initially, before the downgrade cycle began, we had institutional, economic, external as a neutral, fiscal assessment as far as flexibility is concerned, a weakness, the fiscal assessment as debt is concerned as neutral, and the monetary as a strength. Now you might wonder, because at the time when we had already fiscal flexibility as a weakness, the deficit wasn't looking that bad in comparison to many other countries. What brings us to see a weakness on the fiscal flexibility side in South Africa's case is very simple. It's the combination of low per capita incomes, low income levels, if you like, tremendous development needs, and that obviously puts pressure at any given time on the government, on the budget, and leaves the government, the national treasury, with very little flexibility, fiscal flexibility. So in many ways, and I'll come back to that, when we look at the economic assessment, a key indicator for us is always per capita income or income levels and diversification. And it's kind of hardwired into other scores, into other assessments, like I just said, with the fiscal assessment, where income levels, diversification of the tax base, development needs, and so on, feeds into the fiscal picture and might sort of result in a weakness because we see massive tremendous spending needs as we have done in South Africa. Now, what has changed with the onset of the downgrade cycle? The first one would have been on the economy. We started in 2012 changing from neutral to a weakness and kept it that way. And as we went through the downgrade cycle, we highlighted the weakness in economic performance time and time again as a key concern. And when we fell out of investment grade with South Africa last year, one more change happened, and that was on the fiscal debt contingent liability assessment. We went again from neutral to weakness. That was in recognition of what was happening in the parastatals, what was happening with contingent liabilities, ever rising contingent liabilities, and it was reflective of the fact that the debt trajectory was not turning, that we are slowly but surely are getting to a point in time where we have an unsustainable debt path. And on top of that, lots of contingent liabilities. So that's really what happened in a nutshell when you look at this snapshot with South Africa from our ratings perspective, where the weakness kicked in and where our key concerns are.